Today we're going to be checking out some more speakers by Dali. Thank you to Dali for sending these out for me to review. Now this is my second time with their speakers. The first time I reviewed their Rubikore LCR on walls, which I was really a big fan of. If you missed that review, I will leave a link down below in this video's description for that video. Now those speakers were so good, I wanted to see how good their bigger models would perform in a home theater, in a much bigger space. So I had them send me over the brand new Rubikore Cinemas, which is a stand mount speaker with dual 6.5-inch woofers and a dual tweeter array, which includes a 17 by 45 millimeter ribbon and a 1 by 29 millimeter soft dome tweeter. I'm going to be running 3 of these across the front stage for LCR duties. Handling the surrounds are the Rubikore on walls. Now these look just like the Rubikore LCRs that I reviewed a few years back. It's got the same 6.5-inch driver that's in the bigger Cinema LCRs and the same tweeter array. It's in a much smaller enclosure, so it will be limited in bass output, but high frequency detail should be exactly the same. Filling in the bottom end is the K-14F Subwoofer. Well, 2 actually, since I've got a pair. It's got a single 14-inch driver in a relatively compact enclosure measuring 17.7 inches in height by 15.6 inches wide by 16.9 inches deep, and it weighs 58.2 pounds. This does have a port located on the bottom of the subwoofer, and it sits on this solid aluminum base plate which keeps it slightly elevated from the floor, which also comes with optional spikes that you can screw in all 4 corners. Alright, so around back we have the power mode. We've got 3 different options here. We've got on, automatic, and then off. We have your phase from 0 to 180 degrees, so this is not variable, it's one or the other. We have your crossover, we've got your volume knob, the LFE input, and then your line input for your left and right. We've got the main power switch. Then here we have the main power cord inlet. Now I am a bit surprised at this price point that this subwoofer does not have an XLR input. Fortunately, we are stuck with only RCAs. The Rubikores will be hooked up to a Trinov altitude processor and powered by an amplitude amplifier. And I will be running demos from a Zidu media player. Now I will not be running the room correction on these speakers. I like to hear how they sound on their own without having the room correction alter or change their sound in any way. I'll also be running them full range so I can hear how dynamic they are on their own. And I'll also be playing these demos again crossed over to the subs. I did level match all the speakers and I did adjust all the distances. Alright, so what we're looking at here is the center channel. You can get this where the tweeter array goes vertical, or you can get it horizontal like this, so that way if you turn it sideways, you can use it as a horizontal center channel. You can actually take this and you could spin it around and then have it match up with the other speakers. So there are 4 screws on each corner of this tweeter array. All right, so here we go. I'm just gonna pop this out and I guess we can take a quick peek at this. We have the soft dome tweeter here, and then we have the ribbon tweeter here. And this is encased in a really thick base plate. So all I'm gonna do is turn this, and this is gonna just slot right in the hole, and then I'm just gonna screw back in. And this is going to match the left and right channels. Now obviously I'm doing this because the speaker is going to go behind my screen and I want to have all 3 speakers in the same orientation. Otherwise, if this was going to, let's say, go underneath your TV, or if you didn't have an acoustically transparent screen, then maybe leaving this horizontal and putting it under the screen, or maybe mounting it above your screen, might work best. The Cinema LCRs are going to be placed behind my screen with the surround speakers on stands in the back of my room. They can of course be wall mounted using the keyhole slots in the back of each speaker for flush mounting, but since this is only temporary, they're going to go on stands. The first demo we're going to check out is my go-to, A Quiet Place. I remember this sounding excellent on the Rubicons, so I am expecting this to sound just as good, if not better, on these. These things are just as ultra detailed as I remember on the Rubicons, and also just as detailed as my everyday speakers, the RBH821s. I'd even say the Dalis have a touch more air to their presentation than my RBHs, which makes this demo really open up. The soundstage is extremely wide horizontally and depth-wise, and it sounds like it's reaching across the street. The dual tweeter setup captures all the intricate atmospherics that takes the walls out of the room, leaving insects and wind blowing throughout my home theater. I know that this scene has a very open feel to it, especially given that this is an ATMOS mix, so the total immersion is going to be smaller since I've only got 2 surround speakers. But I can imagine having 10 or more, especially on the ceiling, would be a sonic treat with the extended detail that these speakers can put out. Next up, we're going to put on Midway. It's one of the best demos for sound movement, and it's got demo-worthy bass. I was really impressed with how these performed without the subwoofers. The planes carried good mid-bass weight when they would pan across the room, although they did sound light once they hit the surround speakers, which I did expect, so these are not going to sound identical since these speakers are not identical. However, top-end response does carry the same openness from the front stage to the back stage. And even though there are no top channels, I still got a pretty good sensation of planes flying overhead. The wide dispersion from the ribbons excelled at capturing the open air for this demo. The only thing that's missing is the big explosions. The LCRs alone can't do this mix justice, but by adding in the subwoofers, it takes it up to the next level and blows open the room by adding another level of spaciousness to this soundstage. It adds that low pressurization in the room that builds up during the mother and daughter scene, and the explosions have a punchy tactile kick that I definitely felt come up through the floor. Bass was clean and especially snappy during all the gunfire without any lingering bloatiness. Now, if you've heard this movie, which I'm sure you have if you're watching this video, the movie has an insane amount of low-end response. While these subs can hit and give you a pleasant chest massage, they can't give you the under 20 hertz tingle the hair on your arms extension. At least not in my room and not with 2. I think maybe if I had a couple more, then yes, but these won't provide much meaningful extension below 20 hertz. If your room is smaller than mine, then maybe it will. Let's move on to Zack Snyder's Justice League next. Both these guys in this demo have some deep, manly voices which the older Rubicons failed to deliver on. I want to see how these bigger Cinema LCRs can do with this demo.
I will stride across their bones and bask in the glow of anti-life, and all of existence shall be mine. I will stride across their bones and bask in the glow of anti-life, and all of existence shall be mine.
Oh yeah, these sound fantastic. Darkseid and Steppenwolf sound like legit giant alien men. Their voices carried good weight and projected forcefully out into my room, so you shouldn't have an issue with the center channel sounding light. If you aren't crossing these over to subwoofers, these by themselves have some hefty gravitas, but adding the subwoofers into the mix, they sound even better. Sure, they sounded like giant alien men before without the subwoofers, but with subwoofer reinforcement, they sound like giant booming alien gods about to crush your home theater. The subs blended in perfectly with the front stage and didn't sound overly sloppy or aggressive, and I did not get any bleed over from the main channels to the subs. You don't want your subs sounding like they're talking to you. They should sound like a natural extension of your speakers, which these guys do it perfectly.
It shall be so, my master.
My main takeaway is that the on-walls in the cinemas have some of the best detail and transparency I've heard in any speakers. I'm going to put them slightly above the RBHs I have right now and below any of the Martin Logan electrostats that I've reviewed in the past. They're very revealing speakers, so if you're listening to a well-produced recording, it's going to pull out everything in that mix. If the mix is bad, it's not going to mask any flaws. And this goes for either music or movie mixes. I know these bigger ones are called cinema speakers, but I think they're more hi-fi oriented that can pull double duty for movies. If you have a really big dedicated home theater space, I think you'd be better off with something like the RBHs or even some Procellas. However, I think most people shopping for these speakers will probably put them in a common room setting like a living room or a multimedia type of space where the speakers are out in the open. I mean, these are such well-crafted speakers, I would personally want people to see them. Now, going back and forth with my reference RBHs, I did mention that detail was a touch more refined, but the mid-range was slightly more laid back compared to the RBHs. And while using the Cinema's full range, they had more usable bass down low, which isn't too surprising because it's a fairly big ported speaker, while my RBHs are sealed and do sound best with a subwoofer. So if you have neighbors or live in an apartment where a subwoofer isn't an option, I think you'd be fine using the Rubikore Cinemas without a subwoofer. The Rubikore on-walls, I can't say for certain sound exactly the same as the Rubicons that I reviewed, since I don't have them side by side, but I definitely got the same feelings as when I had those. Detail is just as good as the bigger Cinemas, but lacked any usable bass without a subwoofer. They were great as surround speakers and did match up nicely with the bigger Cinemas as far as detail. I'd say for an inconspicuous on-wall surround sound setup, these would be perfect in a living room with one of the K-14s or maybe some other smaller subwoofer. Now, as far as the K-14 subwoofer, I think for its price point, it's going to have a lot of competition. There are some absolute monster subs out there for the same, if not lower price, that can play louder, dig deeper, and have better connections and onboard DSP. That said, if you want to keep it all in the family and assure the Dali system is going to play nice together, this is a taut-sounding little subwoofer that's tactile, is punchy as some REL and newer SVS subwoofers that I've had, and it can dig plenty deep, just as long as you don't want to go infrasonic. I did take some measurements of the subs in my space. Keep in mind that this is the response that I got in my room, and it'll likely be very different in yours. So max output I was able to hit is 100 dB, and this is with both subs together. It does start dropping off hard at around 27 Hz, which is what it's spec'd at. I also didn't use any EQ in the processor except for adding delay and level matching. I could have gotten a smoother response with a little EQ adjustment, but as is, it looks really good with some minor tweaking. At the time of this video, the Dali Rubikore Cinema LCRS is selling for $3,500 each. The Rubikore on-wall is $3,000 each, and the K-14 subwoofer is $2,700 each. If I had the space, I would have 18 Cinema LCRSs in every location in my theater. It's too bad it doesn't come in matte black. Well, those are my thoughts on the Dali home theater setup. Have you heard the speakers before? And if you did, what'd you think about them? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Well, thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next video.